Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1772 of our daily content grind. Your childhood is not sacred. My childhood is not sacred. No matter how much we want to believe the stuff we grew up with was the best ever, and while it can still be our favorite and that's entirely valid, it's also healthy to acknowledge that what we grew up with has room for improvement, especially if you did grow up with the original G1 cartoon. We know that that was designed to be a toy commercial with meaning rather than being like a fully fleshed out show with three-dimensional characters. You have some standouts, don't get me wrong. I don't think you get better than the original G1 Optimus Prime. I do not think you have yet to top the original. However, there are many examples of classic characters from the original Transformer cartoons that have been done later on in a far better way. They've become more complex, they've become more interesting, and they've told better stories. So that's what we're exploring today. So, with apologies to everyone's precious childhood memories and your rose-tinted glasses, here are 10 times your classic Transformer characters were done better later on. We are going to start this list with a live action entry, and that is not because I think, live action characters are somehow any better or worse than other Transformer characters. It's not my own bias. It is literally because I'm not sure this quite counts. For this list, I didn't want to do any character who is just that name of a classic G1 character slapped onto somebody completely new who happens to be cooler. I didn't want to do that. So this one is kind of skirting the edge of that because Mirage from Rise of the Beasts is a really fun character to watch. I mean, I certainly enjoyed him more than I did Bumblebee across most of these movies. He is charismatic. He has actual funny writing behind him. I like the trickery with his abilities. Yes, it's Hound's abilities, not Mirage's abilities. Again, I think I'm skirting my own rules just a little bit. But in essence, he is supposed to be like the movie incarnation of Mirage. So I'm going to go with that here. Especially as Rise of the Beast did a little bit better of a job keeping closer to traditions and original characters than some of the Bayverse movies did. Point being, I do think it's a really good take on Mirage, all the way down to just getting rid of the F1 car mode. Classic as it is, it's not exactly a robot in disguise when you're trying to hide as a vehicle that's illegal to drive on main roads and is technically one of a kind. So yeah, I really, really like this version of Mirage. Does it count as a completely new version of the original character? Or is it just a similar character sharing a name? I'll let you decide, but I'm cheating for just this one. The next two entries are designed to just make people upset, because I'm going to bring up series that are not all that popular so that we can discuss characters who, frankly, you're not going to like me putting above their original depictions. This is going to start with Sideswipe from RID 2015. Now, hold your pitchforks and torches, please. I like the original G1 Sideswipe, but I will also acknowledge that he really didn't get to do anything story-wise in the original series. He's a good hand during a fight scene, and he is a quintessential Autobot design, but story depth does not exist. Character depth does not exist. He is there to just be fun to watch in a fight and be more aggressive than your standard Autobot. And that's essentially all he gets to do. However, in RID 2015, without, movie action Bumblebee, since he's now in a leadership role, and without Hot Rod, who, let's be honest, kind of ate Sideswipe's lunch once he was introduced, he can be his own thing. He's young, he's rebellious, he's everything Bumblebee used to be. And he's not a fan of the rules, which makes his relationship with Bumblebee not only interesting, but also his teammate Strongarm. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of ship it. I kind of do. Don't look at me like that. But more to the point, because he is in a smaller cast, he is getting to be his own character. He's getting to show personality, and he's getting to show a lot more depth and intrigue than the original Sideswipe ever did. Sideswipe's in a ton of episodes, but if you look at his TF Wiki entry, it's literally a huge list of things he did in the cartoon that are only like 2, maybe 3 sentences long, because ultimately he never sticks around in stories, and he's never the focal point of a story when he does. So yeah, I will take my Sideswipe with some origin story, some interesting depth, and some different character dynamics, please. Are you ready, boys, girls, and everything in between? Because this is the most controversial take on the entire list. Let's talk Bumblebee, shall we? I love Bumblebee from the original G1 cartoon. I think he is a really endearing character, which is why the character became popular in the first place. And I think a lot of modern depictions who are really eager to turn him into an action hero kind of miss the point of the original. Which is why I really like when they hit the middle ground, like EarthSpark did. Don't tune off just because I mentioned EarthSpark. Come back, hear me out. So you have a Bumblebee who is young enough to still want to impress Optimus Prime. So you keep that aspect of the original G1 character. But he is good in a scrape. He is a good fighter in and of himself, and he's a hero of, like, the final battle of the Cybertronian War. Okay, all of that, really, really cool, and that is your action hero Bumblebee stuff from the movies, from Prime, etc. However, the part we've been lacking is connection to the human cast. Because let's be honest, he really doesn't do a lot with Raph or Sam. But he's part of the Malto family. You know, like, he's kind of adopted in where everybody else is genetically connected in weird storyline ways. He gets to join into the family. He gets to have the human connection that is lacking in a lot of his depictions. And it adds so much emotion to the character. You know, it adds a lot more depth to, like, what he brings to the table. And that's more so than action movie Bumblebee or young spy Bumblebee, right? Oh, and because he's not the young spy, he doesn't get captured and used as bait all the time. So he's not stuck in the Princess Peach role either. Yeah, this is a really good all-around Bumblebee. Everything you could possibly want in a Bumblebee character is kind of like boiled down and reduced into this lovely sauce that we have poured over this yellow car. But that's me doing weird analogies, which means it's probably time to move on. Don't worry, we're going to get more agreeable from here on out. Hey, look, internet. I got your favorite thing. I got your favorite thing, internet. Prime Arcee. Look at her. So, weird side of the fandom side. G1 Arcee is a more motherly character, a good sharpshooter when they actually let her be in a fight scene. But we've done a whole video looking at her depiction in G1, and we kind of realize she really doesn't get to do much of anything and gets left out of a lot of what the Autobots are doing in any given episode. So here we have an Arcee who still has this motherly nature to her with her relationship with Jack. However, she's a lot scrappier. She's aggressive in a fight. She can hold her own against Decepticons, which is great to see. And then you throw in backstory. What do you mean we have a character with backstory in Transformers? That never happens. Well, we got it here. She has trauma from losing partners, both Tailgate and then at the start of the series, Cliffjumper. So she has that trauma to also cope with, and it also flavors her relationship with Jack a lot. So this creates a very fascinating take on Arcee. Again, she's doing a lot of what the original one did, but she is also doing a lot of what you would expect out of an Autobot hero. And then we're throwing in a lot of character complexity while we're at it. This is, again, a nice all-around depiction, And it's an incredibly popular depiction of Arcee to this day. You know, the fact that she got away with being blue instead of pink, and everyone still really loves this Arcee, is kind of proof, yeah, you can completely reinvent the character and still keep her true to her roots, and everyone's going to be into it. Now, while this list is purely G1, because a lot of fans still sanctify G1 as like the only fiction that matters, it's not. So at the very least, while I am going to stick to G1 because they are the classic rooted characters in the fiction, I wanted to throw in one just to prove that characters introduced later in the franchise can still have new versions who are far superior. Hi, Sentinel Prime. So, there's several versions of Sentinel Prime. Most are not great people. Some of them are. It's kind of fascinating how he kind of ping-pongs back and forth. Whether you want to trace this back all the way to the U-Haul robot of G1, or where we're really going, which is Transformers Animated. This is a perfected and just amped up version of the Sentinel Prime we got in Transformers Animated. He is power hungry like no other. He is willing to betray Autobots for the sake of gaining even more power. You know, he is willing to do horrific things to his entire race, all for the sake of staying in control, even though he's not really the one in control. Again, makes him a little bit more interesting. It's basically what Sentinel Prime and Transformers Animated really, really wished he was. Except this version of Sentinel actually has the backbone to do it, and the intelligence to actually pull it off. Yeah, this is Sentinel Prime perfected. At least the modern depiction of Sentinel Prime. Like I said, he kind of goes back and forth between things. But for the blue and gold guy who's a big jerk, this one is the jerkiest. Hang on, that doesn't... We will stick to Transformers Animated for now. So, I wanted to throw in a Megatron. So let's talk animated Megatron. Now, let's be honest here. I could throw in so many other Megatrons. The original G1 Megatron is a classic 80s villain, but because he is a after-school cartoon 80s villain, he loses all the time. He is ineffective, ultimately, in stopping the good guys. And we acknowledge nowadays that his alt mode is absurd. Why are you turning into a gun that you yourself cannot manipulate? You have to count on one of your soldiers to do it, and half your soldiers would see you scrapped rather than stay in charge. It's not the best of strategies, especially when it's never told why it's beneficial for him to turn into a gun. So, how about we turn him into a massive VTOL ship with an even more massive cannon just sticking off the end? This is one of the most tactical Megatrons that we had ever seen in Transformers, and ultimately, like, just smart enough to murk Starscream the second he gets a chance. He is not taking any risks when it comes to our favorite traitor. And even more than that, like I said, like, I could throw in so many others. I almost threw in Beast Wars Megatron, but I decided Beast Wars is technically G1 canon, and that's not technically the reimagining of previous Megatron. It's a completely new character who was given his name. So that Megatron's disqualified. But this one, yeah, no doubt who he is based on. And yeah, honestly, kind of a perfected version. This is a frightening, calculating, powerful version of Megatron that is never not a threat. Even when he is just a busted head and a hand in Sumdak's laboratory, he is still a threat. That says a lot. Again, there's a lot of versions of Megatron that are done better than the original. This one just happens to be one of my favorite ones. Fourth place is a weird spot to throw in a personal favorite, Usually when you do a top 10 list, you reserve like spot number 10 for a personal favorite, but I think this one absolutely earns it. Can we talk about Cyberverse Soundwave for just a second here? Soundwave has a lot of very weird depictions over the years, some not as great, where he's depicted as something of a rhyming rapper in Cybertron, but then you go to Prime, where he is just this silent, ominous force of Megatron's will, and both versions have their benefits, right? One is way cooler than the other, don't get me wrong. But this, I think, encapsulates a lot of what we really loved about Soundwave in the original series. He's got the tactful mind, he's got the spy instincts, he's got the voice. But this one actually has emotion and personality. He is not just, he doesn't sound like a vocoded robot, even though he's literally a vocoded robot, you know what I mean. It sounds like there is passion and drive behind him. It sounds like there is an actual person to him, especially when you see like how he treats Laserbeak, you know, and how much care he has for the only minion he has in this series compared to G1. And it's even more clear when you see his relationship with Hot Rod. You know, during the Quintesson arc where they have to work together, you see this Soundwave that's coming to respect Hot Rod, and in turn, Hot Rod is learning to calm down and become more serious and take on the leadership role needed to save the planet. The two are in the best kind of bromance that I have seen in Transformers. I love seeing the two together. I love seeing the respect grow between them. And yeah, this one has some really big moments. Really big moments. Yeah, I love this Soundwave. Absolutely love this take on Soundwave. Just everything I like in the original, and then we just make them an interesting character on top of it. It's a miracle. It's a wonderful thing. Here's one I know we've talked about on this channel more than once, but we're going to go over it again because Starscream is another character with a lot of reuses and a lot of reimaginings, even though the original is still seen as very special and very iconic. So, how do we shake that up? You actually simplify him. Armada Starscream is one of those weird depictions where it should not work. He doesn't necessarily want to take out Megatron for leadership of the Decepticons. He just personally hates Megatron as a person. And that alone should be a much more simple depiction, but it opens him up so much more. Without being power hungry, you actually see him appreciating the power he gets, how the care he has for his minicon partners that no other Decepticon in the series has. You know, it's what leads him to eventually ending up alongside the Autobots, like a Starscream willingly joining the Autobots because he does not believe in what the Decepticons are doing. It's a crazy thought, but this is what we had. We had a much more honorable Starscream. We had one that could actually make friends with a human. Weird, right? And it's a Starscream willing to throw his life, on the line to prove that there is a greater threat that Megatron has to acknowledge so that everyone can be saved. It's an amazing depiction of the character, and it all comes from that one thing. Take out his lust for power. You take that element of greed out of the character, and what you're left with is someone who can actually grow beyond it and has so much more character depth than you would ever expect. We love this version of Starscream. Absolutely love this version of Starscream. If you have not seen Armada, it's rough, but this is the reason you go and see it. Now, one of the soft rules for this particular list was I didn't want to repeat series. I wanted to dance around the entire franchise and give every sector of Transformers its own little nod, right? But there's some that just do it better than others, and we got to bring up Transformers Prime again and talk about Ratchet. Okay, so Ratchet in the original G1 cartoon does have some personality to him. Weirdly enough, a lot of it that was intended written out completely, so he's actually a lot more generic doctor than he's supposed to be. You have the animated version who's the just like the gruff war medic who's just sick of everything. He's just old and worn out and just tired. But here you have the Jeffrey Combs version from Transformers Prime, who is splitting the difference perfectly. He sounds and acts like the old war medic veteran, but he still has this, he still has this spark to him, for lack of appropriate non-puns. He's still good in a fight. He is still good with his banter. He has catchphrases. He has interesting dynamics with the humans, and his overall personality is a lot of fun. Not at a stage where he didn't even like the humans, he still wanted to help them with their science reports, their science projects, simply to show off, which is kind of amazing and hilarious. It's a fantastic Ratchet. It's probably my favorite depiction of Ratchet, period. It's such a good blend. Again, I like these blends of like the extreme versions of these characters. Find a point in the middle and you come up with something better than the parts. And that is what this Ratchet is. He is this perfect little blend of two lovely flavors of Ratchet. And he absolutely is my favorite one. Okay, it's time to beat a dead horse here, because this is, again, something we've talked about a lot on this channel. I've got entire videos dedicated to this one character who has done so much better than his original depiction. Except it's not his original depiction. It's resetting his original depiction to what it was supposed to be. I don't think there is a success story better than IDW Thundercracker. When we are talking the original classic Transformer characters that are like, in a Transformer nerd's mind, like front runner names, I don't think you get a better success story than Thundercracker. The original cartoon, he's kind of the boring one of the Seekers, because he's not like giggly prankster Skywarp. He's not, traitorous Starscream. It just kind of lives somewhere in the middle. The original version of him, as written by Bob Budiansky, was to actually be someone who sympathized with the humans and didn't really like what the Decepticons were doing. But because the writers of G1 wanted to focus on the more popular Starscream, you never really got any opportunity for Thundercracker to show that aspect of his personality. Just kind of turned him into this generic soldier. Well, when you actually do follow his original plan depiction, you end up with a timeless character who is a lot of fun to read about in the comic books, and it's such a popular depiction of the character that you're seeing it leak into other Transformers media. You have Skybound Thundercracker, who is currently on the same journey. He's actually wearing the Autobot symbol, which is a wonderful thing to actually see in official media. You have the same similar depiction going on in even like the Devastation game, where he's the Decepticon to help out the Autobots, even if you have to beat him first to do it. Point being, we like good boy Thundercracker. It's what he was always supposed to be. And this is where we finally got to see how good it can be, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. IDW is a book that instantly shifted what my favorite Seekers were, all the way to just our blue boy here, and his dog, and his girl, and his human girlfriend. Oh, I love how weird IDW gets sometimes. Frankly, IDW did such a good job with so many classic characters, this really could have just been a list of IDW improves G1 characters. But I wanted to mix it up a lot more than that, as you could see. But I don't think you get better than that. So, as usual with the top 10 list, I'm sure I got something wrong or forgot one that I really should have put in here. So, that is what you get to do in the comment section below. Chastise me for getting something wrong. It's the most popular thing to do in a YouTube comment section. So, I will let you discuss the video in the comments below, and as always, I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.